Welcome to the Palace of Alexandria, where life is nothing like the romantic tales in history books or on the silver screen. Today, you officially become the food taster for Cleopatra, the most powerful and enigmatic queen in history. Don't dream of a safe life or an easy job, for every day here is a gamble with your life. You've just stepped into the palace's service area, where dim light seeps through the cracks of old wooden doors. The musty smell of decay mingles with the scent of spoiled honey, sweat, and lingering traces of perfume on faded tapestries. Immediately, you see the body of a man slumped on the floor, wrapped in linen heavy, with the scent of embalming spices and disinfectants. He was your predecessor, the food taster, who didn't survive the plots and ambitions hidden in the dishes. You hear the clinking of knives and the soft whispers of servants preparing for the evening feast, their echoes like curses haunting your mind. The eyes of your new colleagues are far from friendly. They look at you like a new dish, a fresh target for the palace's cruel fate. A chilling air creeps through the worn marble stones, spreading an ominous gloom, signaling that this is no place for the faint-hearted. Each step feels heavy, cold sweat beads on your forehead. Despite the eerie stillness of the room, the distant church bells echo, reminding you that time here belongs not to you but to the queen and the invisible dangers lurking. You recall the gruesome rumors about your predecessors, dying for unknown reasons, their mysterious deaths casting a dark, ominous shadow over the palace. You wonder if you'll survive your first day and the days after, when every bite you taste is a life or death gamble. There are no true allies here, only yourself, and everyone around you could be a potential enemy with a cunning smile. You try to stay calm, taking a deep breath to quell the rising panic in your chest, blending into the bustling crowd preparing the queen's meal. But no matter how hard you try, fear surrounds you, for you know that one small mistake could cost you everything. Your trembling hands remind you that nothing is certain in this life, especially as Cleopatra's food taster, a woman whose every word and gesture could spell your life or death. Flickering candlelight dances on walls covered in intricate reliefs, shadows swaying with each gentle breeze, making the space more eerie than ever. You walk slowly through endless corridors, ears catching the whispers of servants, the tension blending into the air, quickening your heartbeat. The sound of footsteps echoes softly on the cold stone floor, footsteps of those who walked before you, whose fates were sealed on this short path in the palace. You glimpse a long table, draped in white cloth, laden with dozens of lavish dishes, interspersed with small jars of powders, sauces, and spices you can't identify. Cleopatra doesn't eat directly from here. She needs someone like you to taste first, ensuring nothing can harm her. The thought sends a chill down your spine. You're led to a small room where you'll spend days, months, with this heavy task. The room is far from the palace's grandeur, just a cramped corner with a hard bed, reeking of antiseptics and old food. You place your hand on the rough wooden table, silently vowing to survive, at least until tomorrow, until the next meal, where you'll guard your life and protect the queen from every wicked plot. Standing in the heart of Egypt's power, you realize one thing clearly. It's not the castle, not war or power, but each dish, each pinch of spice, that decides life and death here. This is where your journey begins, as Cleopatra's food taster, in a palace full of secrets, schemes and death, lurking at every moment. Are you ready? Your new life, where a single mistake could cost you everything, starts now. Before diving deeper into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated with the latest stories. You wake up in a cramped, dark room where the morning light hasn't yet pierced the old wooden doors and heavy curtains. The musty air mixes with the faded scent of perfume, thick with an indescribable odor you recognize, the smell of mummies and sweat accumulated over time in the floor tapestries and cold stone walls. You lie beside 12 others, their breathing heavy and rough, like a haunting melody echoing in the confined space. Bedbugs and parasites cling to your skin, driving you mad with itching, your trembling fingers trying to fend them off, but you know there's no escaping their grip. You feel the stench of dozens of people living in this cramped space, a heavy odor of sweat, excrement, and rotting food stored in moldy wooden crates. You lie still, avoiding any noise, knowing that even a small sound could wake someone, bringing angry glares or merciless scolding. The cold from the stone floor seeps through your thin clothing, creeping into your bones, making you shiver. The air is stifling, lacking oxygen, leaving your head spinning, your heart pounding so loud you think everyone can hear it. Every few minutes, the distant church bells ring, a sound that's not just a marker of time, but a cold reminder that you can't escape or delay your duty, thrusting you back into the relentless cycle of survival in a palace full of traps. You know those around you aren't friends but colleagues, competitors on the treacherous path of survival. The stench intensifies the suffocating feeling, as if the room is spinning in a breathless vortex with no escape. Outside the tiny window, faint morning sunlight filters through dust-covered curtains, like a dim ray of hope amidst the enveloping darkness. But in your heart, fear surges as you think of the day's task, tasting lavish dishes laced with deadly dangers set by invisible enemies. Your mind echoes with gruesome tales of predecessors, their unexplained, haunting deaths, and rumors of final meals turning to poison in an instant. You breathe steadily to avoid shock as you rise from the hard wooden bed and move through the flickering darkness. Each step is cautious, the floor littered with debris, leftover food scraps, and even large cockroaches crawling slowly. You head toward the door, where whispers and footsteps blend into a chilling symphony of the palace. Outside, the steady sound of chopping knives and servants preparing the day's food echoes. The faint aroma of herbs and fruits mixes with the sharp scent of rare spices like saffron and Persian honey, creating a strange contradiction that both draws you in and repels you. But there's no choice but to step into the new day with its life or death task. You think of your predecessor, who fell because they didn't notice the slightest change in a dish's flavor or texture. You tell yourself to stay alert, to sharpen every sense, to detect the smallest differences, to avoid becoming the next victim in this powerful, scheming palace. As you prepare to leave the room, you glance back at the cramped, dark space, once home to countless lost souls, and wonder if you'll survive the day or become another name in the palace's deadly tale. You take a deep breath, step into the cold corridor, where your life is no longer your own, but tied to every dish, every flavor you must taste in a day, filled with looming dangers. You are led to a small, damp room where your predecessors learned to make death a slow process, and if lucky, somewhat stylish. An old man with thinning white hair and cold eyes, who has survived several near-death experiences in this trade, is tasked with training you. "Listen," he says, his voice as dry as cracked stone underfoot. "Your job isn't to eat for pleasure, but to eat to avoid dying instantly. Every bite, every grain you swallow could be your final dose, or it might bring excruciating pain that lingers for hours, even days, before dragging you into the grave." He teaches you to observe the color, taste, and texture of food, to detect the slightest changes the naked eye might miss, a hint of excessive bitterness, an odd nuance in the aroma, or an unusual sensation when you bite. If your throat starts to burn, or a wave of nausea hits you, don't panic or spit it out. Stay calm, swallow, and monitor whether the symptoms persist. He instructs you to keep a small vial handy to vomit into if the sensation becomes intense, but never let anyone see such weakness. If you're deemed weak, you could be replaced instantly by someone else willing to risk their life for the queen. You begin practicing with fake dishes prepared by the chefs, slightly bitter flavors to test your reaction, overly pungent spices to get used to discomfort, and subtle tastes that could kill within hours. Each test makes your heart pound, your limbs go cold, and your mind reel. You learn to control your breathing, keep your heartbeat steady, and most importantly, never show fear or pain on your face. The trainer looks at you coldly and says, "You must not die early, for an early death is the greatest shame in this trade. You must die late, slowly, so others might pity, or at least respect you." During training, you witness others before you collapse, their choked screams echoing from the next room, chilling you to the bone. You know that beyond tasting, you must endure pain, resist panic, and maintain composure when death approaches. Another vital lesson is distinguishing between acute and gradual poisoning. The latter may not be immediately apparent, only revealing its consequences hours or days later. This is a matter of survival, he stresses, and only the strongest can serve the queen long enough. You're taught to watch for changes in your body, pale skin, cold sweat, trembling hands, irregular heartbeat, or an itchy throat or stomach. Every sign must be noted and analyzed quickly to react in time. But the hardest part isn't detection, it's concealment. For any sign of weakness, could cost you your life instantly. The old man warns that this job is not for the faint-hearted or impatient. If you can't handle a slow death, you'll only be a sacrifice for the queen. Throughout the training, you try to memorize every detail, every taste, every discomfort in your body. Each test brings you closer to survival, but also to the edge of death. When the session ends, you collapse to the ground, exhausted, your heart still pounding, your mind racing with chaotic thoughts about tomorrow's real dishes that could kill you faster than any training. You know that as Cleopatra's food taster, you're not just tasting food but life and death, learning to live in a world where the line between the two is as thin as a thread. You silently pray for the strength to walk this treacherous path, hoping each day isn't your last, knowing death could come with every spoonful, every sip of sweet wine, every pinch of spice. And so your journey as Cleopatra's food taster truly begins. You step into the royal kitchen, where opulent beauty and the sweet scent of lotus flowers mask a deadly secret lurking beneath. Every kitchen station, every jar filled with precious ingredients from across the world, Persian honey, fresh ginger, exotic herbs, all meticulously prepared under flickering candlelight. But you know that among this beauty, an invisible enemy, arsenic, the infamous poison, can kill in silence. See the head chef, with sharp eyes and skilled hands, quietly mixing fine white powders with floral water and honey, creating a blend as fragrant as it is dangerous. Whispers of mysterious deaths, of picture-perfect dishes that took lives in a single lavish feast, make your heart race. You quietly observe the cooking process, memorizing every detail, how many spoonfuls of white powder are sprinkled, what liquid is added, the swift, discreet movements of the chefs that go unnoticed. The gentle lotus scent in the air seems to heighten the cruelty of death, as that sweet fragrance could signal betrayal. You cautiously approach the spice and ingredient containers, touching the jars to feel their temperature, humidity, and consistency for anything unusual. Thin layers of dust on their surfaces remind you of the veils of secrecy shrouding the truth in this palace. The soft breaths of the cooks nearby sound like whispers of death, each quiet but urgent step reminding you that a single mistake could be your last. You recall your trainer's advice. You must learn to sense flavors not just with your tongue but with your nose and intuition. As poisons are often hidden beneath a dish's exquisite facade, a single drop of invisible arsenic could dissolve in honey or blend with herbs, creating an undetectable lethal dose. You know that in this palace, where everything is prepared with precision for the queen, the real enemy doesn't always appear in plain sight, but in cunning tricks concealed under beauty and alluring aromas. Tension spreads through you as you recall secret purges, unexplained deaths, and those who once stood in your place, people who walked a fragile line between lotus flowers and death. You see a sealed jar of precious Persian honey, its golden droplets glistening like the last rays of hope, but you know behind that shine may lurk a deadly trap. Each day you face not only the flavors and colors of food, but must learn to distinguish between life and death, hidden in every ingredient. You silently think that without vigilance and learned knowledge, you'd be the next victim of schemes woven from seemingly harmless things. You know that in the world you inhabit, the lotus's fragrance isn't just a symbol of purity but could signal silent death. And you, Cleopatra's food taster, must live in the tense clash between beauty and danger, fragrance and poison, every moment protecting your life and keeping the powerful queen safe. You wake up in the faint morning light of the Alexandria palace, knowing that before you lies Cleopatra's breakfast, not just a lavish blend of imperial dishes, but the harshest test for a food taster. In front of you is a long table draped in pristine white cloth, adorned with an array of colorful, aromatic, and textured foods. Dried grapes imported from Persia, bread made from rare barley, and pink duck eggs dried using a recipe known only to royalty. You sigh, trying to stay calm, though deep down you know each bite you're about to taste could be a deadly dose if poisoned. The pressure weighs heavily on your shoulders, your heart racing faster as the queen appears, her piercing gaze tracking your every move. You recall your trainer's words, never eat too quickly, but don't make her wait too long, as slowness could spark her suspicion. You must learn to chew quickly, but swallow slowly, detecting poison without vomiting or trembling, signs that could end your life in an instant. The first item you reach for is a barley bread, so hard it could almost damage your teeth, beside a bowl of thick golden honey, said to be the sweetest and most expensive in the palace. You take a small bite, trying to identify the taste and sensation on your tongue, searching for odd signs like lingering bitterness or an off-putting smell. Next to it are the dried grapes, seemingly sweet but possibly laced with a subtle poison that could cause dizziness over time. You learn to chew each grape individually, holding it in your mouth long enough to sense any change in taste, then swallowing slowly, monitoring your body for anything unusual. Your palms sweat coldly, your body tense, every sense heightened to the maximum. You know any abnormal sign, racing heart, burning throat or nausea, must be noted and reacted to swiftly but concealed completely. Cleopatra sits there, beside her ornate throne, watching you with a mysterious smile, making it impossible to lose focus for even a second. The meal isn't just about tasting, it's a life or death performance where survival hangs on a spoonful. As you move to the dried pink duck eggs, you notice an odd texture. They're infused with a strange herb that numbs your mouth. You dare not swallow too quickly, but can't spit it out without others noticing. The psychological pressure is so intense that your head spins, your breathing quickens, and sweat streams down your forehead. Everyone around is busy with their tasks, but you know the queen's attention is fixed on you, the one holding her life in your hands every moment. You closely observe her every subtle gesture, nod, or squint to gauge her satisfaction, as it means your survival for the day. The pressure mounts as more dishes arrive, fresh fish and meats marinated with rare spices, intricately decorated dishes so exquisite, it's hard to imagine reacting naturally with vomiting or shaking your head. You must remain calm and control your body, like a warrior on a battlefield. Each spoonful of thin soup, each piece of broken bread, forces you to grapple with complex flavors, aromas both alluring and dangerous. Cleopatra's breakfast isn't just a meal, it's a test of mental strength, resilience, and survival instinct. You wonder if you can keep your life through this meal, where every dish is an enigma, every spice a potential hidden poison. Your mind echoes with horrific tales of predecessors who sat in your place, felled by seemingly simple dishes, laced with death. You know this palace life isn't for the weak or fearful. This is a war without gunfire, where every plate, every grain of salt, can decide your fate. When the meal ends, you exhale in relief, but remain vigilant, knowing breakfast is just the start of a long day filled with challenges and dangers. You leave the dining room feeling both saved and like a tightrope walker, each step a test between life and death. And you know that not just breakfast, but the entire day will be a battle to protect your life and keep Queen Cleopatra safe. The woman whose life and death rest in your hands, the food taster, with every small spoonful of this powerful breakfast. You stand there, heart pounding, eyes hesitant, but striving to stay calm, as you're led to meet Cleopatra for the first time, the powerful woman all of Egypt fears. The room where the queen resides is a world apart, where the shimmering light of candles blends with the gentle fragrance of lotus flowers and saffron, creating an almost unbelievable mystical atmosphere. Cleopatra emerges from the shadows like a goddess, her alabaster skin glowing, her large deep eyes sharp enough to pierce anyone's heart who dares meet her gaze. Her smile, both seductive and deadly, makes you falter but unable to look away. She says little, only observing you with a probing, authoritative stare, as if measuring every nuance of your soul. It feels as though your small world stands under her absolute power, where a single frown or mocking smile could send you into the abyss of an unheralded death. You try to stay calm, recalling your training, chewing each bite carefully and watching Cleopatra's reactions closely. Her eyes flash with a strange glint as you swallow each spoonful, only to turn icy cold moments later. At times you think she smiles, a faint smile, as if acknowledging your survival, but it quickly shifts to sternness, a silent reminder that you're merely a pawn in her game of power. She needs no words to convey her will. A single glance is enough to make you understand your life is entirely in her hands. The room's atmosphere is so tense that each breath feels stifled by the weight of her authority. The surrounding servants remain utterly silent, with only the clinking of gold and silver utensils on the table, and Cleopatra's steady breathing as the backdrop to this suspenseful moment. Each time your eyes meet hers, your heart beats harder. Each gentle smile feels like a hidden dagger beneath silk. When you finish tasting, Cleopatra slowly nods, a fleeting smile returning to her lips, as if declaring you've survived the first test, but not necessarily the next. You know that in Cleopatra's world, survival isn't about luck. but the result of wit, vigilance, and acting. You must play the role not only of a food taster, but also a secret keeper, an endurer, and a survivor, through every moment. As you leave the room, each step feels lighter yet heavy with thought, for you realize you face not only the dangers in each dish, but also a person, Cleopatra, whose smile could save or end you in an instant. Your life or death story has just begun, and this first meeting with the Queen will leave an indelible mark on your mind, a deadly smile you'll live with throughout this grueling journey. You never thought a simple dish like grilled fish from the Nile could become a curse haunting you for life. It's a sweltering afternoon in the palace, with harsh sunlight streaming through intricately carved windows, and you stand before a fragrant, meticulously presented plate of grilled fish, glistening under a thick layer of honey and rare spices. The palace's old chef, whose eyes carry a cold, enigmatic glint, sets the plate before you with an unreadable smile. You know this is no ordinary dish, but a new test, another life or death challenge in your perilous journey as Cleopatra's food taster. As you bite into the fish, its rich flavor bursts forth, blending the subtle sweetness of honey with the sharp heat of herbs, briefly easing your earlier fears. But within an hour, an itching sensation spreads across your skin, from wrists to calves, then your entire body. Red welts appear like tiny wounds, burning and aching, forcing you to stifle groans of pain. Whispers among the palace servants speak of the Nile fish curse, that some fish carry a mysterious toxin from the polluted river, and ancient curses. You can't believe that the delicious dish is the source of a nightmare creeping into your body. You try to stay calm, but each passing minute is a battle against spreading pain, your heartbeat pounding as if it might burst, plunging you into silent panic. The court physicians are summoned, unsure of the cause, but applying ancient remedies, holy mud from the marshes, oils mixed with dried herbs, to your skin in hopes of easing the itching and pain. You lie bedridden in a small room, sweat dripping down your forehead, feeling trapped in an inescapable nightmare. The pungent smell of holy mud mixes with medicine and human odor, choking you, yet you must endure. As you lie there, you can't stop thinking about your predecessors, those who faced similar fates and never woke again. You recall your trainer's warning, not all deaths come instantly, some linger in pain and despair, like this cursed fish now tormenting you. You feel the fragility of your life as your body weakens, your mind wavering between pain and fear. Every small sound around you jolts you awake, reminding you that one more mistake could erase you from this world. But the worst isn't just the physical agony, it's the absolute isolation, knowing no one truly cares about a food taster's life except the Queen, and even she can't shield you from invisible dangers like this. Day after day, you battle the itching, as if thousands of needles prick your skin, the burning sensation making every movement torture. Confined to a discreet medical room, you can't go outside, only hearing the palace's echoes and distant laughter from the royal court, where Cleopatra continues her powerful life while yours fades. In those lonely, desperate moments, you wonder if you'll survive to taste the next dish, or if this was your last. You recall the fish's flavor, its fragrant aroma on the plate, and feel rage at being tormented by an invisible curse from the Nile, the river that sustains a civilization but harbors deadly secrets. Still, you strive to push through, knowing that surviving today means facing another battle tomorrow, another challenge to maintain your role as the food taster, bearing the weight of Cleopatra's life in every spoonful and sip in this opulent yet perilous palace. You're led to the palace's cold wine cellar, where flickering candlelight makes shadows dance around massive wooden barrels filled with rare wines. The air here is heavier and more stifling than elsewhere, the scent of old wood mingling with aged fermentation, leaving you slightly dizzy. Only a few are allowed in this cramped room, and you know being brought here means you're being drawn into the palace's deepest secrets. An old chef with sharp, cold eyes, who survived multiple poisoning plots, begins telling you about your predecessor, who died mysteriously under suspicious circumstances. His voice is low but menacing, recounting the strange signs they experienced, odd tastes, lingering headaches, unnoticed changes in the menu. You feel the tension in the air, his words like daggers piercing your heart, reminding you that no one in this role is immortal. The chef stresses that you can't trust anyone, not even those closest to you, as everything in the palace can be manipulated by silent forces. You listen, realizing these secret meetings aren't just about meal preparation, but about plotting schemes where tangled factions weave webs of poison and intrigue. He speaks of other chefs vanishing mysteriously, rumored to have been poisoned before revealing secrets. Your feet grow cold, your heart tightens as you imagine the fates of predecessors who held your role but perished in obscurity. The air grows more oppressive as a servant silently brings a dark wine bottle, marked with a discreet seal you can't read. The chef opens it, inhales deeply, and whispers, "This is the wine the dead drank last. It's sweet but kills, without mercy." And you tremble, knowing each drop could hold a piece of death you'll have to taste next. The secret meeting ends quickly, its attendees vanishing into the palace's shadows, leaving you with countless unanswered questions. You feel pulled into an inescapable vortex, where life and death are separated by a single meal or sip. Your footsteps echo on the cold stone stairs, the meeting's words lingering in your mind, fueling fear and doubt. You know from now on, there's no room for naivety or absolute trust. Only absolute vigilance and clarity can keep you alive. You leave the cellar with a heavy heart, preparing for the days ahead in this lavish but dangerous palace, where every meal is not just for living, but for battling the death lurking beside you. You stand in a grand room, filled with the glow of candlelight and the rich scents of jasmine, saffron, and honey, blending with the gentle strum of a lyre from a distant corner, preparing for one of your most terrifying life or death challenges. A night feast hosted by Cleopatra herself, where you must taste 12 different dishes, each a potential trap leading to sudden death. The space brims with the colors of pristine white tablecloths, adorned with intricately arranged dishes, rare fresh fish, meticulously marinated, tender fragrant meats, honey cakes, shimmering under the candlelight, interspersed with costly imported fruits and lavish desserts. You know each spoonful isn't just about tasting, but a fierce battle to stay alive. As the first dish arrives, you try to stay calm, chewing gently to detect any unusual signs that might indicate poison. Under Cleopatra's piercing scrutiny, you dare not make a single mistake, not even a grimace or a delay in swallowing. Each dish you taste carries a distinct flavor, but beneath its deliciousness, you know unpredictable dangers may lurk. The third dish brings a spice with an uncomfortably sharp heat, numbing your tongue, but you must remain composed, showing no sign of pain. You recall your trainer's words, "Don't let your emotions show, even if you feel like dying." Meanwhile, nobles and foreign envoys silently watch, their eyes measuring your every breath and expression, as if this isn't just a feast but a silent battle for survival. The sixth dish, a herb-steamed fish, seems fragrant and safe, but you know appearances deceive. You take a small bite, noticing an odd texture, a lingering bitterness, and a slightly acrid scent, forcing you to hold water in your mouth longer than usual. Your heart pounds harder, each second spent monitoring your body's reactions, ready to vomit if danger arises. The room feels frozen, with only the music and Cleopatra's steady breathing as backdrop. You strive to memorize every detail, every anomaly, knowing your life and death hinge on spotting them. Dish, a dessert of honey and fruit, exquisitely crafted and glistening, tantalizes every sense. But as you taste it, a bitter sting spreads in your throat, and a slow heat rises from your stomach to your head, signaling a subtle but deadly toxin. You struggle to hide the pain, as any sign could be seen by the queen as weakness or fear, meaning instant replacement. More dishes follow, and you endure a haunting journey between life and death. Exhaustion builds, headaches throb, cold sweat soaks your forehead, but you can't collapse. Cleopatra's eyes follow you, her enigmatic smile toying with your fragile existence. When the final dish is placed before you, you're nearly spent but force yourself to taste it bit by bit, keeping your mind sharp to avoid becoming the next victim of the palace's deadly schemes. You realize life here is never simple. There's no room for weakness or naivety, only vigilance and readiness to face death at every moment. As the feast ends, you've survived, but you know tomorrow and the days after will bring even harsher trials, living in a world where each dish is a battle of wits between life and death, and you, Cleopatra's food taster, must triumph to keep your life. You wake in a small, damp room, icy air seeping through the cracks of an ancient wooden window, sharp pains in your stomach and throat, signaling that today will be far from easy. Distant church bells echo, reminding you once more of the heavy responsibilities awaiting, especially Cleopatra's breakfast, which could determine your fate with its first bites. Before you is a modest table set with seemingly simple dishes, hiding sophisticated dangers, particularly a jar of precious black pepper, a costly spice imported from distant lands, reserved for the palace elite. Your trainer warned that black pepper doesn't just enhance flavor, it can mask the tiniest poisons, its pungent aroma overpowering any off-putting taste of hidden toxins. You cautiously taste each grain, feeling the sharp heat spread across your tongue, then swallow slowly, searching for any unusual signs. But within an hour, your body reacts violently. Sudden nausea hits, waves of pain crash through your stomach, forcing you to vomit repeatedly, your limbs cold and sweat pouring like a flood. You collapse onto the bed, stifling the agony. Don't dare crying out for fear of others spotting weakness. Court physicians are summoned, using ancient remedies, northern and southern herbs, rare plants to ease your pain and aid recovery. Yet you know not all poisons can be cured this way, and you might be suffering from a new, silent killer you've never heard of. You recall your training, struggling to control your breathing, and stay calm as your body battles pain and vomiting. Underscores your life's fragility, as if thousands of sharp knives pierce every part of you. You wonder if you can rise and continue, if you can survive today and the days ahead in this perilous palace. Whispers from the hallway and soft footsteps heighten your tension, knowing any sign of weakness could be detected and cost you your life instantly. Today's breakfast has become a painful lesson about dangers hidden in the most ordinary things, and you know you can never overlook the smallest detail in your work. You lean against the bed frame, eyes closed, fighting dizziness to muster strength for the next challenge. You realize that in the world of Cleopatra's food taster, a single lapse or moment of carelessness could make you the next victim of death, and each day is a grueling test of vigilance, courage, and survival instinct. As morning sunlight creeps through the window, you know you've paid a heavy price in health to stay alive in a world rife with dangers and lurking schemes, where pungent black pepper isn't just a spice, but a bloody warning of survival's fragility. You've just endured a tumultuous morning of vomiting and pain, thinking the worst trials were over, only to be thrust into a new battle with death, this time over Cleopatra's beloved lavish fruit platter. The platter, brought from distant lands, is a vibrant tableau of ripe berries, plump figs, glossy green grapes, deep red pomegranates, and fresh watermelon slices, seemingly nature's gifts. But you know nothing in this palace is harmless. As a new servant places the fruit before Cleopatra, your eyes catch a strange slave standing silently in the corner, their fleeting glance laden with intent, sending a chill down your spine. You recall your predecessor's journal warning, not all sweet gifts are safe, and not all who bear them come with good intentions. With utmost caution, you start with a fig, biting a small piece, tasting its gentle sweetness tinged with a slight bitterness on your tongue. Within minutes, a numbing sensation spreads from your tongue to your throat, like a thin layer of ice coating your insides, forcing you to steady your breathing and avoid sudden movements. Your mind races with images of toxins, poison's enemies might have secretly laced into the fig to kill you silently, slowly, without a trace. You want to call for help, to spit out the fruit, but fear and pressure force you to endure, hiding any sign of weakness before Cleopatra and the surrounding crowd. Whispers echo in your ears like a haunting melody, reminding you that a single wrong move could extinguish your life. You discreetly spit the fig into a handkerchief, still, monitoring your body for the slightest changes in breathing or heartbeat. A servant approaches quietly, their suspicious glance making you hold your breath. You sense the invisible threat from those around you. Each could be an ally or a hidden enemy, and in this web of intrigue, vigilance is your only lifeline. The numbness spreads faster, forcing you to grip the chair to stay balanced, cold sweat dripping from your forehead, aware you're in critical danger and must act swiftly to avoid becoming the next victim in this deadly game. You recall lessons on handling poisoning, breathing deeply to ease the pain and awaiting the court physician's aid. But you know ancient remedies aren't always timely or effective. You hear murmurs in the room, tales of slaves poisoned by fruit, silent deaths unnoticed until too late. You wonder if you can survive this curse dubbed death in the fruit platter, if today will be another gamble with fate, or if you'll become part of this powerful palace's dark history. Each moment feels like living in a real-life horror film, where life and death are a heartbeat apart, and you must be the sharpest to survive. You glance at Cleopatra's enigmatic smile, not just a symbol of power but a warning that this game is never for the weak. And you, the queen's food taster, know you must overcome not only the flavors of the food, but the hidden schemes in each sweet fruit to preserve your life and existence in the treacherous, trap-laden world of the Alexandria palace. You begin to realize that in Cleopatra's powerful palace, survival doesn't just rely on tasting and detecting poisons, but on a subtle, essential skill, suspecting everything. There's no room for trust or naivety. You must learn to be wary of everything and everyone, as enemies can hide behind the most unexpected facades. Every fleeting glance, every small gesture could carry a secret message of conspiracy or danger, and you cannot overlook even the tiniest sign. You start observing the kitchen staff, from the head chef with icy eyes to the silent servants watching your every move, all potential allies or the deadliest foes. You learn to analyze gazes, voices, and behavioral shifts, to identify who might be plotting to poison the queen or harm you. At times you find strange objects in the food or unexplained spices added without reason. You learn to stay calm and hide any suspicion, as openly doubting could make you a target. Living amid this chaos of schemes and deceit, you question whether you can even trust yourself, as even the closest allies could be betrayers. You hone the skill of memorizing and analyzing every detail, from how the chef prepares food to how servants move or whispers pass in hidden corners. You must focus intensely, using every sense to detect anomalies, from an oddly gentle flavor to a subtle but sinister touch. Each day you face the palace's complexity and danger like a giant spiderweb where you're the trapped prey. And to escape, you must become the shrewdest hunter. You realize your survival hinges not just on spotting poisons, but on a psychological war with those around you, where trust is a luxury you can't afford. You're shocked to uncover intricate poisoning plans, realizing those you thought reliable were setting traps. Some nights, you lie awake, imagining scenarios from poisoned food to assassination plots in the queen's bedroom. You learn to keep your suspicions secret, quietly observing and gathering evidence to avoid exposure. The loneliness and unease weigh heavier, knowing a single mistake could end your life abruptly and mercilessly. Yet, this skill of suspicion is your anchor, the shield protecting you from invisible dangers. You develop a sixth sense, a heightened ability to predict and stay alert to the smallest shifts. Any change in the queen's schedule, the arrival of unfamiliar guests, or palace rumors draws your attention, as anything could impact your life as a food taster. In this grueling journey, you learn that survival isn't just instinct, but the art of suspicion, doubting everything to avoid deception, doubting everything to protect yourself and keep Queen Cleopatra's life safe. You realize this isn't just a job, but your life, where vigilance and suspicion are your closest allies, helping you navigate the harsh challenges of this palace filled with schemes and dangers. That day in the Alexandria palace, the atmosphere turned tense and markedly different with the arrival of Mark Antony, Cleopatra's lover. His presence wasn't just a social event, but a new life or death test for you, the queen's food taster. Mark Antony, tall and imposing, with sharp eyes and the confident demeanor of a powerful general, strode into the dining room, oblivious to the dangers lurking around him. Unlike Cleopatra, he refused to have his food tasted beforehand, even showing disdain and distrust for your role. His impatience and stern attitude placed you in an incredibly difficult position. How could you protect his life, safeguard the powerful queen you serve, and still ensure your own safety? You felt the stifling air in the room as Antony sat beside Cleopatra, his eyes constantly tracking your every move with suspicion. You tried your utmost to conceal any fear, though your heart pounded as if it might burst from your chest. You knew that any hint of doubt or imperfection in tasting his food could cost you your life. The head chef whispered that Mark Antony was stubborn and hard to please, and his presence would bring new, dangerous plots. While Cleopatra remained graceful, authoritative, and enigmatic, Antony introduced a different air, cold, strict, and uncompromising. You had to work under double the pressure, as the presence of both in the dining room meant you were not only guarding the queen's life, but also ensuring the safety of her powerful lover. You began to notice subtle conflicts within the palace, silent factions opposing each other, and the growing risk of being caught in their power struggles became clearer than ever. As the meal was served, You had to taste every dish for both, while observing their every reaction and slightest expression for any unusual signs. You recalled your trainer's instructions, striving to detect even the most cleverly disguised poisons. While focusing intensely, Cleopatra gave you a trusting yet stern look, reminding you that her survival depended entirely on you. Mark Antony whispered doubts to the queen about the food's safety, making the atmosphere suffocatingly tense. You felt the weight of pressure on your shoulders, striving to avoid even the smallest mistake. You bit into each dish, watching their reactions, staying calm yet alert to detect any hidden dangers. Today's food wasn't just a meal, it was a deadly game where vigilance, patience, and luck determined your survival. When the meal ended, you were exhausted, but had to maintain absolute alertness and caution. You knew Mark Antony's presence not only heightened the danger, but prolonged the chain of plots and threats you faced daily in this opulent palace. As you left the dining room, you couldn't shake the feeling that you were living on a fragile bridge spanning life and death, where each step could be your last. The arrival of Cleopatra's lover not only shifted the palace's dynamics, but made your life more complex than ever. A life where you must always be prepared for new challenges, new dangers, and endless schemes. You stumbled upon an old, worn journal hidden in a dark corner of the service area, its leather cover tattered and pages yellowed, but still preserving the faded ink of a previous food taster. Your heart raced as you turned each page, realizing this could be a treasure trove of valuable lessons for surviving this deadly environment. The scribbled lines chronicled their experiences, every dish, every strange sign they detected before being swept into the vortex of poisoning plots. You read about how they identified the unique tactics used by chefs and hidden enemies in the palace to kill silently, from lacing spices with mysterious white powders to using herbs that could paralyze the nerves. The predecessor wrote about subtle signs like slightly off flavors, lingering burning sensations, or color changes in food that the naked eye could barely notice but signaled danger. One section warned about picture-perfect dishes that carried death, lavish feasts dripping with blood, where each spoonful could be your last moment of consciousness. You studied notes on handling suspected poisoning, from staying calm and avoiding panic to preparing a vial for timely vomiting and concealing weakness to avoid suspicion or dismissal. Horrifying stories detailed colleagues poisoned and their struggles to survive prolonged agony, only to succumb to the palace's cold death. Warnings about distinguishing between fast-acting and slow but equally deadly poisons made you furrow your brow, contemplating the challenges ahead. You learned that, in the world of a food taster, knowledge comes not just from experience, but from meticulous observation and analyzing the smallest details. The journal also offered advice on dealing with those around you, noting that trust is a double-edged sword, and only absolute vigilance ensures survival. You felt a deep connection with the predecessor, who, like you, walked this perilous dark path, but you also felt profound loneliness, knowing that after those words they were gone, becoming part of the palace's grim history. Closing the journal, you were filled with both newfound strength and the realization that the journey ahead would be far more arduous. The journal wasn't just a valuable record, but a warning, a mirror reflecting the cruelty of your world, and a reminder that to survive, you must stay alert, vigilant, and learn from past mistakes. You silently vowed not to repeat your predecessor's fate, to use these precious lessons to continue on this life or death path, protecting your life and fulfilling your duty as Cleopatra's food taster in the days ahead. A duty that's not just a job, but an unrelenting battle with death lurking in every moment. You stand before the most dangerous meal yet, each dish meticulously arranged and perilously sophisticated, when suddenly a sleek black cat, small and agile as a shadow, leaps onto the dining table with startling ease, knocking over a large portion of the hot soup just served by the chef. The room falls deathly silent in that moment, all eyes fixed on the cat as if it committed an unforgivable act, or perhaps saved you from an unimaginable disaster. Your heart seems to stop as you see the head chef's furious frown, yet he doesn't dare shoo the cat away, possibly due to some mysterious reason, even the most powerful fear this small creature. You quickly realized the spilled soup was the poisoned dish you hadn't yet tasted, and without the cat's unexpected intervention, you might have been the next victim of a perfect poisoning plot. In the ensuing chaos, servants hurriedly clean the mess, and you're pulled from the table to avoid attention while trembling from your narrow escape. The old chef, with a steely yet reverent gaze, whispers that this cat is known as the Queen's guardian spirit, and its appearance is never random.
Yay.
You can't help but feel a strange bond with the animal, as if it's the only talisman shielding you from the invisible dangers in this intrigue-filled palace. In the days that follow, you observe the cat, noting its every small movement, realizing it always appears when you're in danger or showing signs of distress. You begin to believe your survival depends not only on your skills and vigilance, but also on this tiny protector. When Cleopatra hears of it, she merely smiles, a smile both enigmatic and powerful, and says that those saved by the cat are blessed by the gods, at least for that day. You silently think that, amid the layered plots and lurking dangers, the appearance of this small but resilient cat is like a minor miracle in a life filled with hostility and threats. Your bond with the cat deepens. You offer it small scraps of food, gentle pats, and quiet care, as if to preserve your own luck. You realize that in this palace rife with danger and deceit, survival hinges not just on skill and intellect, but on mystical elements, signs of luck and protection you can't explain. In the still, dark nights when all are asleep, you often see the cat by the window, its eyes gleaming as if guarding you from approaching nightmares. You know that despite this harsh life, with death lurking in every meal, you have a mysterious companion, a guardian spirit, who will appear just in time to save you from deadly traps, giving you the chance to survive and keep fighting in Egypt's most dangerous palace. Thus, the story of the cat saving your life becomes an unforgettable memory, proof that in a life of peril and intrigue, survival sometimes depends not just on you, but on the small, wondrous things invisible to the naked eye. You stand in a silent room, holding a goblet of dark red wine served at Cleopatra's banquet. The flickering candlelight reflects on the wine's surface, creating a mystical yet ominous scene. As you grasp the bottle poured for you, your eyes catch a detail at its base, something you'd normally overlook, but in your heightened state of vigilance, every detail matters. A faint inscription, cleverly etched and nearly obscured by dust, is just legible enough to reveal it's no accident. You gently turn the bottle, straining to read the tiny letters written in special black ink, and when you decipher their meaning, your heart skips a beat. The enemy is closer than you think. Be careful. A chill runs down your spine as you realize the plots aren't confined to food, but seep into every bottle, every drop of wine you thought safe. You recall past incidents, when such sweet wine mysteriously claimed the lives of previous tasters, unexplained by anyone. The bottle in your hand is no longer just a drink, but a secret warning, perhaps from an unknown ally, or a cunning psychological game by an enemy. You'll quickly understand you must change how you taste. Wine, no longer simply savoring, but adopting a new ritual, sniffing, tasting tiny drops, and closely monitoring your body for the earliest signs of poison. In the days that follow, you train to taste wine, not by habit, but by the secret lessons from your predecessor's journal and the hidden warning on the bottle. You develop a sharper sense, detecting subtle differences between a normal bottle and one laced with poison. You begin to suspect every bottle brought to the dining room, as the secret message suggests someone is warning you or playing a dangerous game with your life. The palace atmosphere grows more oppressive as you share this discovery with a few trusted allies, sensing their tension and fear. They know the plots are more intricate than ever, and your life, like the Queen's, hangs by a fragile thread. You decide to keep this secret hidden, lest the enemy knows you've uncovered the truth, to avoid being swiftly removed from the game. Each night, you lie awake, trying to deduce who sent the message, ally or foe. You realize survival in the palace depends not just on tasting skills, but on decoding the smallest signs and maintaining relentless vigilance. Thus, the bottle with its secret inscription becomes your most crucial possession, a reminder never to forget that in this dangerous world, life and death are separated by a single drop of wine, and you must always be ready to face the endless challenges of fate in Cleopatra's intrigue-filled palace. You quickly realize that in the treacherous, intrigue-filled world of Cleopatra's palace, it's not just every dish that requires scrutiny, but also the Queen's piercing gaze, a weapon with devastating power. Here, survival hinges not only on detecting poison in food, but on a subtler skill, learning to meet Cleopatra's eyes without blinking, without showing emotion, without letting her catch any hint of irregularity on your face. The first time you stand before Cleopatra, you're captivated by her gaze, profound, intense, and commanding, as if she can see through every thought and fear hidden in your heart. She needs no words. A single furrowed brow or glance is enough to make you feel life and death hovering above you. You learn that Cleopatra's gaze is a test, a silent contest you must win to survive. You begin practicing in front of a mirror, adjusting every facial muscle to maintain a calm, confident demeanor, concealing any trace of panic or exhaustion. Each practice feels like a tense battle of wits, where a single blink or frown could be misread and lead to catastrophic consequences. During feasts and meetings, you observe how Cleopatra communicates with her eyes. A look can be an intimate invitation. A cold glance, a threatening warning, and a fleeting blink can open or close a door to survival. You learn to read her gaze to predict her mood and intentions, adjusting your actions and expressions accordingly. This skill not only ensures your survival, but also builds a strong, reliable image in the Queen's eyes, which you know will determine your place and life in this scheming palace. Maintaining an unblinking gaze is no small challenge. It demands absolute focus, emotional restraint, and maximum bodily control. At times, you must fight exhaustion, headaches, and extreme stress to avoid blinking or showing weakness. You realize this is not just a skill but an art, a dangerous game where the slightest mistake could cost your life. Over time, you develop the ability to hold a gaze naturally without causing discomfort or suspicion, something you never thought possible. You also learn to use your eyes to send subtle signals: respect, friendliness, caution, or refusal, a vital silent language in court life. Direct encounters with Cleopatra become real-world tests to hone this skill, and you know only by passing them can you truly survive in the Queen's perilous world. Moreover, you deeply understand that this skill not only protects you, but also maintains your credibility and status in the palace, as a single moment of perceived weakness could lead to ruthless replacement. When you stand before Cleopatra, facing her commanding icy gaze, you know the ability to look without blinking has become your most powerful weapon, an invisible tool you must constantly refine to avoid losing your life in the most brutal game of survival you've ever known. You once thought your job was merely to taste food and survive the palace's hidden dangers, but the truth is far harsher as you're drawn into the complex political whirlpool and bloody rebellions within Cleopatra's palace. One morning, the palace air turns stifling and unusually tense. Whispers grow into loud murmurs, suspicious and hostile glances exchanged covertly in the cold stone corridors. News of a slave rebellion spreads, not just a reaction to oppression, but a power struggle among court factions, each vying for their own interests, heedless of others' lives. You witness covert skirmishes, plots woven in the shadows, and gradually feel you're no longer an outsider, but being pulled deep into deadly political battles. Many servants and chefs, once colleagues or allies, are suspected as spies or traitors, and unease permeates every corner of the palace. You know a single wrong word or action could make you a target of hostile forces. Now your role extends beyond tasting food to maintaining loyalty and navigating the political game wisely to avoid being caught between factions. You notice that true power lies not only with the Queen or Mark Antony, but also with eunuchs, the head chef, and high-ranking slaves who can control or destroy your life with a single secret command. You're placed in a dilemma, forced to choose a side or maintain neutrality in an environment with no room for naivety or innocence. The rebellion erupts suddenly and violently. Parts of the palace descend into chaos with shouts, destruction, and clashing swords echoing. You're dragged into an unwanted conflict when a group of rebellious slaves attacks the kitchen where you work. You witness some being tortured, others executed, and a deadly atmosphere engulfs everything. In that moment, you face a life or death decision: flee to save yourself, or stay to uphold your duty and loyalty to the Queen. You choose to hide temporarily, seeking refuge in the dark, long corridors, ears attuned to every sound to avoid detection. In the days that follow, the palace remains chaotic yet scheming. Power struggles among factions grow more sophisticated, with secret arrests and brutal interrogations. You're forced to become part of this dark political game, where no one can be trusted, and each day is a battle of wits for survival. You learn to act, playing the role of absolute loyalty, while inwardly maintaining heightened vigilance to avoid revealing any hint of betrayal or doubt. The pressure mounts as you realize even those you once trusted could become enemies. You find yourself surrounded by a web of lies, betrayal, and deceit, where only clarity and survival instinct keep you standing. When things gradually calm, you know the peace is temporary, and the real battle for power and survival continues silently in the shadows of Cleopatra's palace, where you must not only taste food, but also the full flavor of politics, betrayal, and death. You never imagined that something as delicate and fragile as saffron threads could become the source of the most terrifying nightmare in your role as Cleopatra's food taster. One day, when delicate purple flowers from distant Greece arrived at the palace, you were tasked with tasting a new dish adorned with precious saffron threads, a symbol of luxury and elegance at elite banquets. You approached cautiously, savoring each refined flavor the dish offered, tasting the subtle sweetness mixed with a faint bitterness of the saffron. At first, it was a soothing, pleasant experience, momentarily making you forget the ever-present dangers. But within an hour, your body began reacting strangely. Your heart raced, each beat erratic, as if caught in an uncontrollable storm. A sense of breathlessness and dizziness overwhelmed you, forcing you to grip the table to stay upright. Tension filled your chest, as if an invisible force was squeezing each breath. Intense headache spread across your skull, making you close your eyes and focus to avoid fainting. You tried to recall your trainer's instructions about identifying slow-acting poisons, like saffron, which could kill without clear signs, silently ravaging you day by day. You knew that as you struggled with these sensations, danger was coursing through your veins, attacking every cell in your body. Court physicians were summoned immediately. With their limited ancient knowledge, they could only use simple remedies, herbal medicines, fruit juices, and traditional concoctions, unaware that the poison you'd absorbed was too potent and spreading rapidly. You lay in bed, each exhale a struggle, like dragging a massive stone in your chest, your vision blurring, limbs cold and powerless, left to await your fate. In a haze between life and death, you heard rumors of previous tasters who endured similar agony, none of whom survived. You were horrified to realize you were facing the same fate, a victim of the most sophisticated poison the palace had ever seen. Chaotic thoughts flooded your mind about life, your experiences, and the uncertain days ahead. Yet, amidst the pain and despair, a part of you clung to life, striving to stay alert and not be swept into darkness. You vowed not to let death come without a fight, using all your knowledge, experience, and remaining strength to overcome this trial, to keep living and protecting the queen you swore to serve. Still, you couldn't ignore that in Cleopatra's world, life and death hung by a fragile thread, and today, you stood on that thread, feeling its trembling threat of pulling you into an inescapable abyss. Thus, saffron threads were not just a symbol of nobility and luxury, but a double-edged sword, a deadly poison cloaked in delicate beauty, a reminder that in Cleopatra's palace, nothing is harmless, and everything could be the most sophisticated trap you must face in this grueling survival journey. You thought your role was confined to tasting food, to protect Cleopatra's life, but things turned far darker and more horrific when a secret purge erupted in the royal kitchen, a place you frequented and felt somewhat safe. On a gloomy evening, with the palace's candles burned out and only faint light reflecting off cold stone walls, you witnessed an unforgettable scene. Head chefs and servants dragged before the court council, accused of vague crimes like sabotaging food, plotting to poison the queen, or stealing precious ingredients. Without public trials or chances to defend themselves, they were sentenced to death on the spot with brutal methods, some chained and thrown into pits of ferocious fish, others tortured to death as examples. A chilling horror permeated the air, making everyone in the kitchen, including you, feel death looming overhead. You saw the cold, ruthless glares of the eunuchs and court leaders, unafraid to use fear to control all and protect the queen's absolute power. You wondered if you could stay calm, knowing a single mistake or baseless rumor could make you the next victim. Throughout the purge, you felt the fearful silence of those remaining. No one dared speak or show the slightest resistance, as silence was the only way to survive. You realized that surviving in the palace required not just tasting food or detecting poison, but wisdom, patience, and absolute secrecy. Each day demanded total vigilance toward everyone, from those you thought close to the silent servants on the sidelines. The purge was a stark reminder that Cleopatra's palace was no place for the weak or inexperienced. You had to learn to evade, to observe who could be trusted and who was waiting to eliminate you. The sense of being surrounded and isolated grew as you noticed signs of betrayal lurking everywhere, where a single misstep could make you vanish into the shadows unnoticed. Despite this, you refused to collapse, using every ounce of strength to stay sharp and continue this life or death duty. You understood there was no room for weakness, and only those who survived this horrific purge could stand firm in Cleopatra's world of schemes and death. Thus, the kitchen purge became a terrifying milestone, but also the most valuable lesson in your survival journey, a clear warning that in this powerful, intrigue-filled palace, survival depended not just on your taste, but on the clarity and wisdom in every step of your life. You never imagined that one day your survival duties would extend to tasting lipstick, something seemingly harmless, meant only to enhance the alluring beauty of Queen Cleopatra. But on a hazy afternoon in the palace, as you prepared for a small banquet, Cleopatra suddenly summoned you to her throne, her gaze icy yet captivating, her enigmatic smile hiding a deadly secret. She handed you a small, intricately decorated gold box containing a vibrant red lipstick, shimmering in the light, as if imbued with the power of Egypt's sun. She said, "Test it. This is my new blend, and you're the first to try it." Your heart seemed to stop, unsure whether to feel honored by her trust or terrified by this strange, perilous challenge. Lipstick, made primarily of cinnabar, a toxic mineral, and crushed beetles for its red hue, was not just a beauty product, but a potential killer if misused or laced with poison by an enemy. You gently placed a small amount on your tongue, tasting a bittersweet metallic flavor as a numbing sensation spread through your mouth. You struggled to stay calm, hiding any signs of distress as your lips and tongue began to burn, your head spun, and your breathing quickened. Cleopatra watched you unblinkingly, as if awaiting the outcome, and you knew this was not just a beauty test, but a life or death trial. Your lips tingled, your mind reeled, but you couldn't refuse or show weakness, as a single failure could mean death. You tried swallowing a sip of water to ease the burning, but it couldn't fully alleviate the spreading discomfort. You recalled warnings about poisons hidden in court cosmetics, about those poisoned by seemingly harmless items. You felt the fragility of your life, knowing each dab of lipstick you tasted could carry a lethal dose. Cleopatra smiled, a smile both sweet and commanding, and said softly, "If you survive this, you'll survive anything." Her words were both a challenge and a reassurance in the dangerous world you inhabited. You collapsed onto your bed after the ordeal, limbs numb and mind foggy, unable to stop bouts of nausea, but you knew you had to fight, to preserve your life, to continue this perilous task. In the days that followed, you worked to recover, regaining strength and spirit, silently thanking fate for still breathing and not becoming the palace's next victim. From that experience, you learned that not only food, but even the smallest things like lipstick could be a weapon in the hands of hidden enemies in this powerful palace. You realized vigilance must never waver, and survival depends on relentless clarity and a touch of luck amid countless lurking dangers. And so, that day, as the last rays of sunset faded over Alexandria's sky, you were not just Cleopatra's food taster, but a survivor of the poison in the Queen's lipstick, a significant milestone in your grueling, relentless survival journey. You lie in a dimly lit room, the faint glow of a small oil lamp by the bed casting shadows, when the door creaks open and the palace's chief winemaker steps in quietly, his weary demeanor and anxious eyes betraying his burden. He whom you've seen behind the fragrant wine bottles served to the queen and nobles now becomes the confessor of the darkest secrets few know. His hoarse, exhausted voice recounts his struggle between life and death, unable to distinguish genuine wine from expertly blended poison, meant to kill silently. He tells of unintentionally mixing wines with toxins, causing sudden deaths in the palace with no clear cause, living with that haunting guilt. His confession is not just words but a cry for help, a torment between conscience and duty in an environment where everything could be deadly. He says there's no way to ensure absolute safety, that his craft is a game of chance where even the strongest can fall to the enemy's cunning. You feel the heavy, sorrowful air in the small space, hearing his admission of helplessness and constant fear, a man once an ally, but also a potential source of danger. He speaks of choosing between saving himself and serving the queen, of secretly adding poison to wine to eliminate enemies, only to harm the innocent. You understand that in this palace, survival is not just personal but a consequence of tough, sometimes cruel choices people must make to endure. His confession makes you reflect deeply on the nature of your own work, not just tasting food, but living in a world rife with schemes, betrayal, and unrelenting fear. You sense the hidden weakness in this seemingly resilient man, and realize that in this life or death struggle, no one is perfect or immortal. After he leaves, you lie there with chaotic thoughts, more aware than ever of your life's fragility and the daily dangers you face. The midnight confession becomes a valuable lesson, a warning that in Cleopatra's palace, everything is a double-edged sword, and only clarity, vigilance, and luck allow you to continue on this treacherous path. You silently vow never to forget the winemaker's words, strengthening your resolve to survive and protect your life in a world where death is just a sip of wine, a spoonful of food, or a piercing glance from the queen away. The first day, Queen Cleopatra vanished from the palace without explanation or warning, plunged the entire court into chaos and extreme fear. You, her food taster, suddenly felt as if you'd lost the most solid anchor in this perilous life. Without Cleopatra's piercing, authoritative gaze, her enigmatic smile, or her deadly glance, you faced a new reality, a hollow, ominous palace where every sound echoed like a warning of impending doom. In the early days of her absence, you were ordered to continue tasting food, despite her not being present, making you feel like a sharp blade caught between two extremes. Survival on one side, lurking death on the other. The first dish you had to taste during this time was a meticulously prepared cold soup, fragrant, but with an odd nuance that demanded your attention to every detail. As you tasted it, a slight numbness began at the tip of your tongue, spreading to your throat and chest, as if a thin layer of ice coated your insides, causing difficulty breathing and sharp pain. You struggled to stay calm, monitoring each pang and unusual sign to react in time if the poison took effect. The queen's absence turned the palace into a chaotic beehive, where greedy and ruthless individuals began their schemes, from planting poison in food to plotting power grabs. You could trust no one, and the loneliness of those days weighed heavier on your soul than ever. Amidst extreme tension, you felt every spreading pain, each moment a life or death battle you couldn't escape. On the second night, you awoke in a daze, drenched in sweat, beside a small snake coiled around the bedpost, an eerie, terrifying image that made you shudder. You wondered if it was a sign of a curse or a warning from supernatural forces rising in the queenless palace. Every step in the palace grew heavier, as if walking a fragile tightrope between life and death, unsure if tomorrow would see you alive. By the third day, with the palace still silent and no sign of Cleopatra's return, rumors and whispers spread, making the atmosphere more stifling and tense than ever. You realized you were not just facing poisoning risks, but also contending with the chaos and lurking dangers from those vying for power in the court. In your most desperate moment, you were summoned to taste what they called the final dish, a meticulously prepared meal, with a chilling flavor and mysterious hue that sent shivers down your spine as you brought the spoon to your lips. A numbing sensation spread quickly, forcing you to stay calm amidst spreading pain, noting every subtle change in your body to react in time. You knew that the day the queen returned would be the final judgment, and your survival during her absence was proof of your strength and resilience in this relentless battle. You told yourself that despite the palace's schemes, dangers, and sudden deaths, you wouldn't be defeated. You would keep fighting to preserve your life. For you were not just a food taster, you were a survivor, a witness to the darkest secrets of Cleopatra's court. Thus, the 3 days of the queen's absence were not just a haunting period, but the ultimate life or death test for you, a person daring to survive in a world where everything could be a trap, where life's fragility was challenged every moment with every spoonful you tasted. You stand in the main dining hall of the Alexandria palace, hands trembling as you hear you've been summoned to taste a tribute from Caesar, a gift bearing a declaration of peace, but fraught with traps between the era's greatest powers. As the box is opened, you see an array of strange dishes, unfamiliar with flavors and ingredients, never seen in Egypt, a small cake of fine white flour, sweet dates, a carefully preserved dried fish eye, all meticulously packaged, but unable to hide their oddity and unpredictable taste. You feel the weight of pressure on your shoulders, as tasting Caesar's gift is not mere enjoyment, but a life or death duty for both you and Queen Cleopatra. Any mistake could lead to catastrophic consequences. You taste each bite cautiously, noting every subtle change in flavor, texture, and sensation on your tongue. Each piece of cake, each date, must be analyzed with your sharp senses, as they could hide a sophisticated poison or a substance that slowly kills, undetectable. The dried fish eye makes you shudder, not just for its gruesome appearance, but as a symbol of cunning in poisoning games, where seemingly harmless dishes carry silent death. You swallow each bite with patience and clarity, despite overwhelming fear and tension. You monitor every ache, every change in breathing and bodily sensation, to detect any danger in time. Physicians stand by, observing your reactions with stern eyes, ready to intervene if anything seems amiss. You recall lessons on distinguishing fast and slow poisons, on staying calm and hiding weakness, as survival in this palace demands acting skills and a steely resolve. Caesar's gift is not just a diplomatic offering, but a sophisticated challenge to your vigilance and survival intellect as a food taster. When you complete the task, you're exhausted but proud to have survived, though your mind lingers on the hidden dangers in those seemingly harmless dishes. Thus, you know that in this powerful palace, every dish, every tribute, is a piece in a deadly game, and you, Cleopatra's food taster, are at the forefront of this silent war. You've grown accustomed to every dish, every bite on your tongue being a potential poison or a gateway to life, but never has a challenge felt as complex and ambiguous as the sweet dessert Cleopatra placed before you at a grand banquet. The dessert, exquisitely presented, looks like glistening candies, vibrant and heart-melting, but you know that in the Queen's world, beauty is a facade hiding dangerous schemes. Cleopatra gazes at you with a cold, curious stare and an enigmatic smile, saying, "I won't eat this. I want to see how you react." Her words are an unspoken challenge, a life or death test for you, the food taster tasked with protecting her life. You take a small bite, tasting a delicate sweetness blended with a gentle but suspicious aroma. Soon after, intense pain spreads through your body, your head spins, and your veins feel constricted, suffocating you. You struggle to suppress the pain, maintaining calm to hide any weakness before the watching eyes. Meanwhile, Cleopatra smiles, a smile both alluring and a cold warning of your fate. You sense a strange blend of beauty and death, smile and curse, making your heart race faster. The room remains silent, everyone observing your reactions, as if witnessing a silent battle between life and death. You know this isn't just a test of poison detection, but of willpower and survival instinct. Each breath grows harder, but you can't surrender, knowing a single failure could be your last. The intense pain lingers, pulling you into a haze between life and death, yet you strive to stay conscious, monitoring every bodily change to react in time. Cleopatra continues watching, her smile widening, as if relishing the dangerous game she's set. You wonder if you can survive this final challenge, as everything grows hazy and uncertain. But deep down, you know your survival isn't just luck, but the result of resilience, intellect, and relentless determination. As the pain subsides, you exhale in relief, but never forget that this lesson will stay with you forever, that in Cleopatra's world, nothing is simple, and even the sweetest things can hide a deadly curse. You look at the Queen, still smiling enigmatically, and realize her smile, not the food, is the most dangerous thing in this life of schemes and perils. Thus, you conclude a grueling chapter of your life, one where every dish is not just food, but a test of survival, a trial of your courage and intellect. In Cleopatra's powerful, scheming palace, you're still alive, undeniable, but the person you once were, with dreams, hopes, and genuine emotions, is gone. Throughout your time as Cleopatra's food taster, you've faced countless terrifying trials, vicious plots, and invisible survival battles that only you and the Queen truly understand. Each day you awake, not with joy, but with fear of poisoning, with utmost vigilance and a steely spirit forged through hundreds of silent clashes with death. You feel the change in your soul as memories of loved ones and simple dreams of a normal life fade, replaced by cold calculation and unyielding toughness. Your body has endured countless poisons, from sweet wine laced with toxins to delicate dishes spiked with deadly herbs. But you've learned to adapt, to accept the pain and profound weakness, while preserving your survival instinct. You're no longer just a food taster, but a symbol of survival in Cleopatra's dark palace, a silent warrior amid endless schemes and dangers. But what's the cost of this survival? It's the loss of yourself, the disconnection between soul and body, where emotions grow numb and your heart turns to ice. You no longer feel simple joys, no longer trust sincerity or loyalty, having learned that in this palace, everything can be betrayed or deceived. Your gaze grows colder, every gesture calculated to hide weakness or fear. You know you must maintain a strong image to survive among the wolves circling you. In quiet moments, when the palace sinks into darkness and all are asleep, you sit alone, staring into the void through a window, feeling a profound loneliness words can't describe. You wonder if there's any path but accepting this fate, living in relentless solitude and vigilance. But you also know that without resilience, without adapting and accepting, you wouldn't have survived this long. Survival in Cleopatra's palace isn't for the weak, but a reward for those tough enough to face every challenge, even the most unpredictable. You've learned to turn pain into strength, fear into vigilance, and loneliness into motivation to keep living. You know this life isn't for those who fall easily, but for silent warriors like you, food tasters who endure and survive to tell the darkest tale of Cleopatra's court. And though you live, though your body functions, your soul is forever changed, a part of history, of the shadows and light lurking in this powerful, scheming palace. Thus, your story as Cleopatra's food taster ends not with death, but with survival, a haunting survival full of unhealable wounds, but also unbreakable strength. You're no longer yourself, but you're still here, facing new challenges in a world where only resilience and intellect ensure survival, where every spoonful is not just a portion but the harshest test of your existence. The story of Cleopatra's food taster, living in an environment rife with danger and intrigue, though set in ancient Egypt, holds profound lessons applicable to modern life in the United States today. In the story, the protagonist faces not only the peril of potentially deadly dishes, but must also develop the skill of suspecting everything, maintaining clarity and keen observation to survive. This aligns with modern life, where vigilance, information analysis, and wisdom in social interactions are crucial. Like the food taster, we often must taste situations, decisions, and relationships, not just by their surface, but by discerning hidden signs beneath. For example, in workplaces or social settings, adeptly handling information and staying alert to contradictions or dangers can prevent major troubles. The story also emphasizes the importance of patience and staying calm under pressure, like the protagonist facing life or death trials, yet maintaining composure and hiding panic. This mirrors how we must control emotions and behavior in stressful situations, from critical meetings to financial or personal decisions. Moreover, the protagonist's rescue by a small cat, a symbol of surprise and luck, reminds us that in life, alongside skill and preparation, we must embrace and value unexpected elements, the guardian spirits that help us overcome challenges. Finally, the story shows that despite countless dangers and pressures, adaptability and resilience are key to not just surviving but thriving. Similarly, in today's rapidly changing US society, maintaining clarity, vigilance, flexibility, and a clear strategy is essential for success and safety. If you want to keep exploring gripping survival and intrigue stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to catch the next video. Thank you for joining me on this perilous journey, and I'll see you in the next story, where more palace secrets will be revealed.